the Serenity Prayer. Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thy will, not mine, be done. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Judy from New Mexico. You'll be able to hold this?
I get that Sunday first.
You may be able to bring this name.
Oh my gosh, you're so far away. Okay, so you're going to be sitting a lot tonight. So we're going to start with the 7th inning stretch. So I want everybody to stand up and stand behind their chairs, like with your back to your chair. Okay? Whoops, I guess if you're over there, you better go over there, because I want you to look at the people. And just take a look at each other and know you're all connected.
What do you think in there, Barb? You really like your view? That's sort of like mine too.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is take a deep breath, and as you exhale, you're going to raise your arms up in the air. Okay, now bring them back down. And do it one more time. Okay, now this time, turn yourself around. Get close to the person next to you, and let your arms go down and rest on each other's shoulders. So you make a little circle. Okay. All right. And now to help the digestion, you're going to keep your feet planted and just turn the upper part of your body to one direction. And then the other direction, kind of activate the stomach a little bit. And then I want you to lean to the right and then lean to the left. So you're kind of swaying together. And then you can find your chair again. Oh, I think they like the swaying. All right. Okay, now find your chair. Go ahead and find your chair and have your seat. I don't know, lady swallowed a fly, and I don't know why she swallowed a fly. And then, perhaps she'll die. And then she swallowed a spider to catch the fly, and swallowed a bird to catch the spider, swallowed a cat, swallowed a dog, and then she swallowed a cow. I don't know how she swallowed that cow. And then in the end, she swallowed a horse. She's dead, of course. So you all help me not swallow the horse. But I'm here for several reasons. Of course, the first one is I'm a compulsive eater, but I wouldn't be here if it weren't for my sister Marilyn. I think I was 12, but I know I wasn't born 12, and I think everything happened when I was 12, but I think I was 12. And she was 15. And the rest of the family were out in the car waiting to go to Grandma's. Now, my sister was upstairs being 15. She was probably, fixing her face and her hair and all that in the bathroom, and I was 12, and I was in the kitchen. And there on the counter was a piece of dessert. Now, we were going to be gone for a week. And I decided that piece of dessert is, it's just not good, it's gonna be wasted. So I shoved it in my mouth, and when my sister came down the stairs, I was choking. My face was red, tears were running down my eyes. She didn't know anything about the Heimlich maneuver, but she shoved me up against the sink. And then I believe she saved my life. And then she asked me the question that I'm sure you've all heard at one point or another, what is wrong with you? And I didn't know. I didn't know what was wrong with me for a really, really long time. And so my sister Marilyn is gone almost 5 years now. So she's not here for me to say thank you, but I'm sure she's hovering. And so I say thank you to her. And then of course that second reason is that I'm here because I'm a compulsive eater. The third reason I'm here is because, well, it started out with my sister, who happens to be here, and I haven't seen her since the last funeral, which was 4 years ago. But anyway, she said, oh, by the way, Carol J is going to call you just to see if you might want to speak. And I said, I'm not going to Dallas. So a week or so later, Carol called me, and I said, no, I'm not going to Dallas. And she said, well, if you think of anybody, let me know. And I said, okay. I dropped it. I never even told anybody. And a day later, I would say, I was doing some writing, and I wrote about things that I had accomplished and things that I'm working on and feel good about. And then I decided to ask my little girl inside, what's missing? So I wrote, what's missing? And then I used my non-dominant hand, which is the only hand I have today. But at that time I had a choice. I used a non-dominant hand, and she said, more fun and laughter. And I thought, yeah, she's right. And so the next day, now nobody knows anything about that or about Carol J or about my sister. And I get an email from Janann. And she says, if you tried for the scholarship and I could help a little, could you afford to pay for your plane fare? Because I really want to see you. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So then I call Helen because I know she's coming. And she's flying out of Albuquerque, which is a 5-hour drive for me. And I said, what flight are you on? And so I got on the same flight. And then I called Carol J and said, do you still need a speaker? And she said, yes, I do. And then I told her I would come. And then she says, well, I'm going to talk to your sister. She just better go. So if you see me hugging and kissing this cute little girl with red hair sitting right in front of me, it's because I haven't seen her in 4 years, and we just have to make up for it. And so there's 3 people in the room that make me laugh and have fun. And that's Janann and Helen and my sister. And then there's many more of you as well, but these people are just like, how many dreams can come true at once? And so I'll tell you what else happened was after I had written my letter and my little girl had her idea, the next morning I was getting ready to meditate, and she showed up. And she says, come with me. And she said, I'm going to take you to my bestest friend. Now, her bestest friend happened to be Jesus. And so we're walking, and she holds up her hand, and it's this little little chubby hand, these little fingers like a cherub, you know, the kind you just want to nibble on. They were just so cute. And all she could get a hold of with that little chubby hand was my finger. So she's walking me, and we go up a hill and go around a hill, and there on the grass sat her friend in these beautiful colors, kind of like the coat of many colors. And they're kind of colors that you stare at, like you stare at a fire, a campfire. You know, it's just so, you know, you're hooked on it. And she let go of my finger, and she ran over and jumped in his lap. And she whispered in his ear, "My big self needs to have more fun and laughter." So we gave her a little bag. Now she had a little pink and purple dress on because she likes, you know, I like those colors and sparkles and anything to try to make me smile. And he gave her a little pouch. And so off we went back home, sat on the porch to open the pouch. The first thing she pulled out were 2 little rocks. And the next thing she pulled out were a piece of purple and pink chalk for hopscotch. So I just got to smile, and then all this other stuff happened, and it was like, holy mackerel. This was before this. And so that's why I'm here today. It was just orchestrated. And I got to be in the middle of this beautiful orchestration. So why I sang the swallowing song to you, I mean, I don't think I ever swallowed a fly, but then I've been to India, so you don't really know for sure what I've swallowed. But, you know, when you first come to the program, it's about the food, and then you hear all these people that have been around say, it's really not about the food. And you're kind of like, you're really? So the swallowing part for me is, what have I swallowed growing up that I had to use food to cover it up? And so I began to take a look at that. And looking back at self-esteem, which is, you know, one of the first things that we take a look at in the big book. It has the little list of things that we do in our 4th step. And I think about, you know, when you're a baby, it's just wonderful. And when you get your first tooth, everybody celebrates. And when you sit up by yourself, and, you know, when you walk, and when you go off to kindergarten, but all those days in between, I can't use my hands. All those days in between, it's don't do this, don't do that, don't touch this, you know, don't fight, don't lose your temper, don't, you know, don't go out the door without asking permission. And so the self-esteem just, you know, those other celebration things just aren't enough positive things to make a difference, really. I mean, they're nice, but the message is, okay, as long as you're doing something that makes us happy, then we're happy with you. And so my self-esteem lie was that I wasn't good enough. And many people have that same lie, or didn't quite measure up. And so when I think about the lie statements, there's always and never in them, because they feel like they are true for eternity. And so I discovered this lie that says, you're never going to measure up. You're never going to be good enough. No matter how hard you try, you are not going to make it. And I have a whole list of these lies that match up, but I'm going to just tell you about 3 of them. Another one is my relationship lie. And I gathered that information from observing relationships, my mom and dad, you know, my aunts and uncles, my grandparents and neighbors, and all of that. And so that lie looked like, I have to give 100%. I always give 100%. And I get nothing in return. And I thought it was true. And just to demonstrate to you how that manifests is that, so for example, I'm doing the dishes after cooking the dinner, I'm doing the dishes. Everybody else is watching TV. And so I don't go ask for help. I bang the cupboards, I bang the pans, I make as much noise as possible. Now, do you think that anybody in their right mind would volunteer to help? No, it's like saying, I need help and don't you dare come near me. I can use my left hand. Don't you dare come near me, because it doesn't matter how you do it, you're getting your head chopped off. If you try to help me, I'm going to say, you know what I'm going to say. And if you don't help me, you know what I'm going to say. So it's a lose-lose for everybody. And so the other one is the spirituality. I call spirituality / addiction. And so what that looks like is there is never enough. That all I have is an emptiness. And so in order to fill that emptiness and that lie that I swallowed, well, then food came even more handy, you know. And so what I did with these, and this was helped through my sponsor that I had a long time ago. Instead of saying character defects, I don't like the word character defects because it sounds like original sin. And it just sounds like you were born defective, you know. So I don't like those words, but I do relate to the word lie. So when I say the 6th step, I say we're entirely ready to have God remove this lie. And so then I say the lie statement, for example, the one that says, I give 100% and get nothing in return, or very little. I look at what is the cost? What do I give up by believing that lie? Well, I give up being myself, feeling my feelings, honoring myself, and actually I give up hearing others too. Other people that tell me I'm beautiful or I'm good or whatever, I'm not able to take that in. And the people that are in my life that love me and say I really want to help you, I can't possibly let them help me because it doesn't fit. And so then I go down a little further and I say, in believing this lie that I give 100% and get nothing in return, what do I accept? Well, I accept stress. I accept proving and convincing myself. I accept a certain amount of numbness. And then I move further down and I ask myself, by believing the lie that I have to do 100% always and get nothing or near nothing in return, I get to be a victim. I get to be a failure. I also get to be special because I do it all. I get to compare, and I get to be fearful and angry and above reproach because I'm righteous. And then in believing that lie that I give 100% always and get very little in return, I can justify, I can rationalize, I can gather more evidence, I can retaliate, and I can blame, and I can complain, and I can be separate. And so these are the things that I could take to my God and say, I think I'm entirely ready to have you remove this lie from me. Because it's not only causing me to be unhappy and the people around me, it's also what makes me cause harm. It isn't that I go out on purpose to try to cause harm, but my belief can't do anything but that. And so the next part is step 7. And so what I do with step 7 is I wrap my little girl up to hold the lie. And I do some kind of a guided meditation for myself. And some of my sponsees I do this work with, some don't get it, some do, and I get to hear it over again, and it's wonderful for me to be reminded. And so I have this little girl do some kind of a guided meditation. Maybe she has the lie in her purse, you know. Maybe she rides a tricycle. Maybe she just takes a walk. Maybe she's in the woods. And she has this little lie in her purse. And I have her find a soft place to sit. And then I have a loving entity. It could be God, it could be an angel, it could be a grandmother, it could be somebody soft and safe and gentle. And sometimes the lie gets all torn up in little tiny pieces and we bury it in the ground and we ask the angels to compost them and turn them into something beautiful. And then she gets another note to put in her little tiny purse. And the note has to have words on it that are what I can say, as deep as the lie stabs me into the stomach, the truth has to be something that melts my heart. And so we play with the words. And there's a couple of people here in the room that I remember their truth statements. There's somebody here in the room whose truth statement was, God basks in the beauty of me. There's somebody in this room whose truth statement is, every fiber of my being is God. And one of my truth statements is, I am the song in the heart of God. It's not just, I am good enough. It's just like, that's lame. It's bigger than that. It's got to be bigger than that. And so out of this relationship lie, I'm still working on it. It changes over time. My first one was, people love me, and they'd do anything for me. And what they did for me was for my family, it took pressure off. They didn't have to be the one all the time. That what that really meant was people love me. And that many of you are the ones who come forward and who do for me where I need some help and don't even know how to ask. So the next thing is about this cast. Nobody knocked me down. I was going to tell you that I wrestled a bear to get here. And that I would go to any length to be here with you. But that's not really true, even though I have had a bear in my yard before. But I was getting ready to teach my stretch class, and everybody's mats were too dang close to the one end of the room, like we were only renting a quarter of the room or something, and I'm like, had my hands up, and I'm like backing up, and I said, you guys are backing me up against the wall, and I stumbled on one of the mats, and I went flat on my sacrum, rolled over, missed a big potted plant by about 4 inches, and my wrist saved my head from being busted open, I'm sure. So here's the gift. This same lie shows up from time to time, and I have to remember it's a lie. And so now I had a brace on my left hand because I sprained it, and then this thing all the way up from my knuckles to my armpit. And so I can't do very much. So it's like the angels had to do something to get me to ask for help. And so that's the blessing. You know, the blessing is I get to be bound but not gagged. And that I get to learn how to ask for help. And after about 3 days, I realized I hadn't had a temper tantrum. I had one in 3 days. 3 days worth of temper tantrums. No, it's over there. You have to have a match to light the stove. You know, it's like, and then finally it was like, I think I'm feeling better. I haven't had a temper tantrum in 3 days. So this is still a work in progress. And I know my arm is going to heal. I'm a massage therapist, so there goes my income. And I thank God for another program, money program, because at least I have a contingency fund. And I'm grateful for that. But in the meantime, and I'm part of, I'm in a writing group, which is just so fabulous. And I already paid my money this trip, and then I was like, I can't, I'm not legible with my left hand. And so I just said, please save my seat for next time. And it was hard to say, I'm not going to be part of the group this time, but it's okay. It's okay. And so then I have an opportunity. I can't do any writing from my sponsor, but I tell her my gratitudes and things like that, or what's been kind of happening with me. Well, I learned something that surprised me, but has been very powerful for me, and that is I've had a few disappointments. You know, somebody would say, oh, we're going to do this, or, you know, and then things happen and it changes. And it kind of happens on a regular basis. And, you know, I stick a little resentment in my pocket, and then I try to talk myself out of it. But it, you know, it's sort of like another little knot on the end of a kite. You know, it just kind of, kite tail gets just a little bit longer. It's not an angry thing, but it's there, kind of lingering. And some of that happened on this trip also. And so then I couldn't drive myself. So then one of our friends happened to be visiting from Hawaii, and she said, I'll take you. I was like, oh, thank God. And then another friend came to visit her, and we're standing or I'm sitting and they're standing in the kitchen, and she says, you know, I should have thought this through, because my friend just drove from Woodland Park, which is a long way, to Glenwood, New Mexico. And she's not going to want to get right back in the car. I don't think it's a good idea for me to drive you. And I'm like, so I got to back step just a little bit, because something happened before that. So before that, sometimes I do a non-dominant handwriting, because then my brain doesn't get too mixed up in it, and my little girl can, you know, have a voice. And so I'm thinking about all these disappointments, and they're creeping out of my pocket. And so I began to write. And I had this memory. And we had one car growing up, and my dad always had 2 jobs, and when he wasn't at 2 jobs, he was at the Knights of Columbus playing cards and drinking. And so when the high school kids, girls all went to the sock hop, the school dance, somebody else's parents always took us and picked us up. And one time, my dad promised to take his turn. I was so excited, and he never showed up. They were turning the lights off in the school. I'm like embarrassed, and of course there's no cell phones in 1953. And so one of the girls ran back into the school and grabbed one of the teachers and asked if she could use the phone in the office, called her parents, and they came and got us. And what that told me was, when somebody says they'll do something, whether they use the word promise or not doesn't matter, I nail them to the wall. And whether what changes is perfectly obvious and has nothing to do with me, they are nailed to the wall. And so when this friend of ours from Hawaii said, I don't think it's a good idea for me to take you, it was like, okay. And something happened. All of a sudden, I realized that I don't have to nail people to the wall anymore. And all those resentments tied onto the tail of my kite disappeared. I mean, they were gone. I consider that a miracle. And so then my husband volunteered to take me, and we had things worked out. And so he took me to meet the lady I was spending the night with, and then she took me to the lady that was going to drive to the airport, and then, so here I am. But the gift of that makes all the 12-step work worth it. And I have had many, many gifts of that. My first husband, 23-year marriage, was bipolar. And every 2 years he had an episode that lasted 5 months, and it was horrendous. Because of this program, I happened to be in Indiana where 3 of my kids still live, and my ex-husband and his wife live, and I woke up crying. And I called him on the phone, and I thanked him for being a good dad. He had had 27 years of lithium, had not had another episode, and my kids got to know him for who he really was, not for my memories. And he never really ever said anything that I thought made any sense. And so when I told him that, he said, "You mean I didn't do it all wrong?" And then he said, "Thank you for birthing our 6 children." Every pain, scar, resentment in that moment disappeared. And I heard the keys from the jail hit the floor, and they were not the ones he was in. And I had had many 4th steps, many righteous forgivenesses of him for a long time, and this was 22 years after our divorce. And when everything was ready, that is when God melted my heart. That is when God melted the scars. That is when my kids finally said, "You mean we don't have to be afraid when Mom comes to town anymore?" And I thought, and then I saw him in person at a wedding a few months later, and I thought, if you want us to speak, make it happen. We're getting ready to leave and kind of in the little kitchen area or something, and he came over and he said, "Judy, I didn't know I was going to have mental illness when we got married. I would not have hurt you for the world." I wanted to hear that for 22 years. And you know what? I didn't need to hear it anymore. And my sister's crying right now because my family suffered when I suffered. And they didn't know what to do with me when they saw me coming, when it was happening again. But I'll tell you, the 12-step program heals. Another healing I had was, well, my name was Miss Rules. And I was in a play one time in our little town, a melodrama, and the lady's name was Miss Rules. And I fit right in very well, and they all thought it was funny. I didn't think it was funny at all. And so, of course, when I came in here, you know, the rules are there, and I was like, Miss Rules. So one of the things that happened to me was I signed up to be, I'm total phone bridge because we have 350 people in our town, and Phoenix is 5.5 hours away, and Albuquerque's 5 hours away. And I have met many of those people, but it's not like I'm going to run to a meeting. And so the phone bridge has been my lifeline, really. And so anyway, I signed up to be the person who puts the phone list together. And then I did that for a few years, and then I signed up to be the sponsor coordinator. And I was still Miss Rules. And as people called me because they needed a new sponsor, now I haven't heard anybody complain about their sponsor here today, but I heard horror stories, you know. Well, my sponsor fired me because, my sponsor made me rewrite stuff because, my sponsor yelled at me because, my sponsor treated me this way, I was horrified. And so finally I put together my little talk, and as I realized what was happening to me, I was becoming an advocate for kindness. And the rules were like, melting, like the witch the other night. They were melting. And so I would tell people, look, I'm going to give you a couple names. And if any sponsor is mean to you, you better call me, because I'm going to find you somebody else. And then I got to say one more thing. And if it happens to you 3 times in a row, call me and we'll talk about what is it in you that thinks you need to be punished. Because that's what we have to look at. We all come in here wounded. We all come in here having beaten ourselves up enough to last several lifetimes. Just like I say, no, I don't miss dessert, sweetheart. I had enough desserts to feed a village. I had all my dessert first. I'm not deprived one bit. And so I noticed the softness happening. That's another miracle. It's an incredible miracle that I'm grateful for. Another thing that I feel like is an incredible miracle is that relationships. I mean, I think I could probably get along with my food without this program, but I can't get along without you. I mean, I am in love with so many people, my sponsees, the people that I call on a regular basis. I'm absolutely in love with you. And you talk about the hormone oxytocin. That's what I get from you. That hormone that has you feel, it just enhances your well-being. That's what I get, and I wouldn't leave that for a minute. And people say, gosh, you've been at the same weight, or you've been abstinent, or you've been doing this for almost 11 years, 10.5 years. Don't you think you got it by now?
No.
And I say, okay, so if you joined a group to learn how to have a friend, and you learn how to have a friend, would you turn around and say, thanks, I don't need you anymore? You know, it doesn't make any sense. I'm not going anywhere. And so I've had my sponsees for so many years. You know, it's a two-way street now. And I get to hear what I say because I need to hear it myself. And they get to hear what they say because they need to hear it themselves. And we just spiritually feed each other. I'm going to read you a little poem that I wrote for the sponsor I had before the one I have now. And we talk pretty much on a regular basis. And it's called Just Because. Just because the phone rang, just because I heard her sigh, just because she asked for time, not really mine, but father time, I said yes, without authority, just because I knew the next word coming. She didn't cry, not yet, accepting her sacred invitation, research, specialists, options, decisions, yes or no, when or where, the choice is always his, just because it is. We complain about our catalyst partner for years and days and moments just because we do. Time stops us in its revelation, limitation without justification, just because it can. Stalking in the dark like the long shadow before sundown, there is no speck or spark or hand to roll back the tick-tock of this clock's end, just because its time is true. Chance has lit the closet light, exposing virtues neatly boxed, stacked, wrapped, and categorized. Love, kindness, generosity, patience, forgiveness, equanimity. Opening box by box, smiles by tears, reminiscing lost years, she touches him. And she teaches me just because she does. And so her husband is getting his probably 29th radiation treatment right now, and she's feeding him, you know, through a tube to his stomach. And these are the people that I love and that love me, you know. These are the people that I can share my deepest heart with, and they do with me. And so, you know, the love that we can, just because we open up, and just because we have a food addiction, we have the opportunity to open up. Nobody opens up in general public like this. We don't walk up to somebody in the street, we don't even tell relatives, you know, the things that are buried down in here. And our hopes and our dreams and our prayers and our failures and our successes. Blessed is the word. I have no idea how long I've been talking, but it seems like a long time. Does anybody have the timer?
It's 8:19.
Oh,
8:19.
well then I'm pretty close. Okay, well, Janan's going to sing a song with me, and I don't know why I'm so nasal these last few days, but I don't know how it's going to turn out. But put together some Cea-How words to Johnny Nash's song, I Can See Clearly Now. So we're going to see how this turns out. She's the musician, so.
One second, get you set up here.
Okay.
We didn't give him much warning.
No, you're fine. We just had to go a different route, so. Gotta make this work for you guys. And it's I can see through it, is that it?
Yeah.
A joke?
I do have, I do
Tell
have,
the joke.
I do have a joke, by the way. I'll tell you this joke. So there's this guy that goes in a gun shop and he's decided he's gonna buy a gun, and I don't know anything about guns, so I don't know, it was a 22 or something, I don't know. And so he looks at it, he likes it, and he says he's gonna to buy it. And the girl behind the counter says, "Strip down, sir." And he's like, I'm gonna be talking to somebody about this, but okay. So he takes his clothes off. And she screams. And then she said, "Your credit card, sir. Strip down." And,
That's some background check.
and then he says, "I didn't think I looked that bad." So, there's the joke. I read it on Facebook.
Let loose the stress. We could do it acapella if we had to, but let's don't.
And the winner is.
Oh, that sounds good.
It's playing through my computer if anyone wants to come up and hear it.
Actually, that's why I can't do that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Do a testing 1, 2, 3.
So. It's not expensive. We're gonna shift it, we're gonna make it.
Okay, we'll just, play the accompaniment track straight from the computer.
And then it will catch up on that. That I promise. Probably sound better than my system anyways. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, gonna make this happen. Okay, so I'm gonna put this as close to you guys as possible. Oh, perfect. That's even better. And then, when you're ready, yeah.
Tell me, you ready? Can you just the volume for us? I can see clearly now, my food is clean. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, abstinent day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, abstinent day. I think I can make it now, the grace is here. All of my real feelings have appeared.
See how's the rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, bright afternoon day. Look all around, there's nothing but freedom. Look straight ahead, there's all of you. I can see clearly now the path ahead. All of God's grace and love holds me dear. See how's the rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, peaceful afternoon. It's a bright, bright, peaceful day. It's a bright, bright, peaceful day. It's a bright, bright, peaceful day. Bright, bright, peaceful day. Bright, bright.
Thank you, Judy. So, before we go on, we're going to close this meeting. You don't have to get up or anything. Let's just say the Serenity Prayer together.